Smart play. Jaylen Brown with thunder on Mo Bamba.
Oh my goodness. Here it is. Jaylen Brown. Mo Bamba, take all that.
Jaylen Brown is filthy on that play right there. Welcome to Celtics Post-Game Live, presented by your New England Ford dealers and Ford trucks. Chris Forsberg, Amina Smith here with you. And the Celtics win big against the Orlando Magic, 116-83. And Forsberg, fifth straight win for this Celtics team. Just what do you take away from this win streak?
So first off, Jaylen should find a safe house or a relative nearby and lay low for a little bit because he's probably wanted for murder. That was insane. And look, I know we're going to fixate on offensive highlights like that, but my biggest takeaway from the Celtics in this whole entire stretch has been their defense has continued to go to another level. And I know the level of competition is not great, and I know that you don't take too much away from teams like the Magic and the Pistons and the bad teams that they've played, but the Celtics have consistently dug in defensively and held teams below 100 points and made things miserable at times for opposing teams, and that gives you a chance every single night you go out there. And so when people say, why are you so bullish on where this team is going? It's because if you can play that level of defense, and if the offense can just get to something like average or 10th in the league, there's at least a chance for this team. And if Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can continue to ride that offensive wave and be those guys, then this team can do something this season.
Jaylen Brown, that man has a family, okay? He has a family. Let's take a look at the Eastern Conference standings right now and where the Celtics are at. You see them at number 8 right there. However, they're in a virtual tie with the Nets, and really, this makes that matchup on Tuesday that much more interesting, Forsberg.
It's so wild. I mean, to think that they were 8.5 games back just a couple weeks ago, and the surge to essentially a virtual tie with not only them, but with the Raptors as well. All of a sudden the Celtics are very much in that play for that 6th seed, and that's huge because, as we said the other night, it's so weird to be sitting here saying, well, can the Celtics get to the 7th seed and host a play-in game? Mm-hmm. Like, that's not the goal when you're doing this. Part of what has been encouraging about this surge is that they have put themselves in the mix to compete for that top 6 spot, which would spare you from that. Now, all of a sudden, you're looking at the bracket, and you're like, what's that 3-6 matchup going to hold? Like, can you maybe make some noise in that game, depending on who the opponent would be? And so it should be an obvious goal of this team. Now, Toronto is going to lean into trying to improve their roster. We know the Nets are going to get guys healthy again at some point, but if the Celtics play like they have now, they at least give themselves a chance. 3 head-to-head games remaining against the Nets. There's a chance here for them to really compete for that 6th spot.
And the Nets have been free-falling as of late. They lost their 8th straight game in a row this afternoon. All right, let's send it out to Abby Chin, who's with Dennis Schröder right now.
Dennis, for you personally, 24 points in 20 minutes. You sparked this offense in the second quarter. What was the mindset coming in?
Just pushing the pace, playing with pace, share the ball, being aggressive, doing a great job, involving everyone, and mainly, getting stops on the defensive end.
You guys have now won 5 straight. Had another dominating defensive performance. What stood out to you about the way this team is playing right now?
I think defensively, we can do that every night, and we can impact the game like that. If you do that for 48 minutes, we're going to be really, really hard to guard. And on the offensive end, it's clicking right now. Everybody is sharing it. We're kicking the ball ahead. Everybody's touching it. And I think that's the success. That's the reason why we won 5 in a row.
How much fun are you having as well? I saw that smirk on your face after the JB poster, and just now Peyton Pritchard holding out your left hand, looking at it, astonished. How much fun is this group having?
I mean, it's to be on the floor every night, that's the best league in the world. I mean, we just got to enjoy that moment, and I remind myself, when I was in the hotel room, I mean, we play here every night, we get all these things. I'm just trying to be, grateful, and to be out here to compete every night, that makes us happy, and we just got to enjoy when we get out here.
Dennis, thank you. Congrats.
All right, thanks.
Let's bring in Scal, who's down there in Orlando, and you heard Dennis Schröder right there talking about this team actually having fun. 22 points out of Dennis Schröder tonight in this matchup. Just how much did he impact this win?
Huge, because the Celtics really struggled to score in that first quarter, and when he came in, he knocked down a few shots, and it's amazing. Basketball is a sport that's really contagious. Once one guy starts hitting shots, then the rest of the guys. And I mean, the Celtics didn't play a great offensive game today, but they had individual performances and individual guys making big shots, and I thought Schröder was one of those guys.
And I would love if they could just bottle up that aggressive Schröder who just relentlessly attacks the basket and makes plays. We all know that when the offense slows down, he rolls that ball up the court, it can be maddening. But Scal, so I got to get your take on this. There's obviously a lot of rumors out there about what the Celtics are going to do with Dennis Schröder. Do nights like this remind us that there is a value, especially if the team were to run into injuries? Do you think there's a world where the Celtics and probably say like Ime would probably want to keep him? Like, do you think there's a value in keeping him around past the deadline?
So I don't understand the I'm not sure what the owners think or what Brad thinks or what Ime thinks about next year's flexibility, but whether they keep Schröder or they don't, they have to make a decision. And I think it benefits the Celtics to get underneath the tax because it's just more flexibility next year. Like, this group has shown us a lot, this starting group. So if you're looking next year at who you're going to bring in or what you're going to make a trade or whatever you decide to do that you feel like is going to help the team moving forward, you have to remain flexible. So I think it's a non-negotiable that they have to get under the tax this year, and it just seems like that's the easiest one because the rest of the guys are under contract. Schröder's a guy that's probably wouldn't be able to be on next year's team. Yeah,
and so look, if there's teams in the league, like other contenders that want to take on a Schröder's money and you don't send back, a whole lot, maybe don't take any salary back, there's certainly you have to weigh it. I would say there's other ways to probably get under the tax for the Celtics, potentially trading out of Fernando or whatever. But it's very murky because Jaylen Brown might still hit some incentives, depending on if he gets into the All-Star game, how many games he plays. So the Celtics might ultimately have to move Dennis Schröder just to ensure getting below the line. But it's just a fascinating little conversation about now that they're in the mix a little bit more, I think the decision becomes a little bit more difficult, even though you don't have a long-term roadmap with Dennis Schröder.
And we showed it to you at the beginning of the post-game show, but Jaylen Brown putting Mo Bamba on a poster. I heard you on the call, Scal. You went absolutely insane, crazy. Just what did you see from Jaylen Brown out there on that play?
I mean, when you talking about dunking on one of the biggest guys in the league with the biggest wingspan, I mean, that's like, those moments don't happen very often. And Jaylen Brown went up and just powered through the Mo Bamba on that play. Great pass from Smart, but insane how athletic Jaylen Brown are, powerful, and how well he's played against the Orlando Magic.
What I don't understand is how he can just sit there with no reaction as the bench is falling all over themselves. And, like, if I do anything in this life, if I say a funny line on this show, I'm like, woo! And I'm like storming around the studio getting hype. So Jaylen Brown is a better person than me. Scal, I just need to know one thing. Are your shoulders tired from carrying Grandy throughout these broadcasts this weekend?
Nah, I mean, listen, I'm always a role player. Amina, what's my number? What's my number,
7.
Amina?
That's
7, baby.
Scal's number.
That's it. I'm always a 7.
I love it. Thanks so much, Scal. We got to get you up to a 10 at some point. At some point, we got to get you up to
7.
a 10.